In today's video, I'm going to be picking out one player from each championship club who I can't wait to see more of in 2024. Now that could be for a number of reasons. Either they've been out injured recently and we've not seen the best of them so far this season. I could be expecting an upturn in form from them in the new year, or anything along those lines. Anyone from your club that you're excited to see more of in 2024, let me know about them down below. But without any further ado, let's jump in. For Birmingham, I'm going to go with Keshi Anderson, a tricky player who could perhaps give Rooney's side a new dynamic going into 2024. Now, Blues fans have only seen a relatively small sample size of what Anderson can offer so far. He's been out injured since late September with a hamstring injury. And don't get me wrong, Birmingham probably knew coming into this season when they picked him up on a free transfer about his recent injury troubles with Blackpool. We didn't see him much in the Championship last season because of injuries either. But if he does get himself back to full fitness, he is someone who could add that extra bit of spice to their forward line. The Blackburn Rovers, I'm going to go for Niall Ennis. It was a real frustrating start to his Blackburn career with an injury early on, and he's gradually been eased back into that Rovers side since then. But we're definitely yet to see the best of him in a Blackburn Rovers shirt. He's only played 168 minutes of Championship football so far this season, and going into 2024 could perhaps give that Rovers attacking line something a little bit different if he can get himself back up to full fitness. For Bristol City, of course, I've got to go for Ross McCrory, one of their most exciting additions in the summer, arriving from Aberdeen in a deal worth up to £2 million, and Robins fans haven't been able to see him in action so far this season. The versatile Scotsman had to undergo surgery earlier this year because of a bacterial infection. Fingers crossed he manages to come back in good shape for Bristol City in 2024. For Cardiff, of course, I've got to go for Aaron Ramsey, who has been out of action since September with a knee injury. Now, Cardiff knew the risks that came along with bringing Ramsey back to the club. He's not had much luck with injuries over the years, but generally speaking, I think he had a really positive impact when he was on the pitch for Cardiff, and recently, I definitely think they've been lacking the creative spark that Ramsey could provide. With 3 goals in 6 appearances for Cardiff so far, fingers crossed he manages to get himself back to good health next year. With Coventry, I'm going for Callum O'Hare. Yes, he made his return recently, but we're yet to see the very best of Callum O'Hare once again. I think that's still to come in 2024 in what could be a blockbuster year for the creative midfielder. That brace he scored against Birmingham earlier in the month, I think, served as a reminder of what a game changer he could actually be for Coventry in this upcoming season, and fingers crossed if he manages to keep injury free, he could have a huge role to play in the second half of the campaign. For Huddersfield, I'm going to go for Jack Redoni. He recently had a quite frustrating spell on the sidelines with injury, but recently made his return to action in that game against Millwall, and looking forward to seeing him back in that Huddersfield starting 11 on a regular basis heading into 2024, and he will be absolutely pivotal to their survival chances. One of their most positive players, always looking to get them up the pitch. Definitely looking forward to seeing more of him. For Hull City, do you know what? I can't wait to see Billy Sharp back in the Championship in 2024. Yes, he only played a supporting role during his final season with Sheffield United, but made some headlines well over in the United States during his short stint with LA Galaxy, and has obviously signed on a short deal with Hull until the end of the season. Maybe gives Liam Rossinia's side something a little bit different in the final third, and interested to see what his contribution will be this year. Ipswich Town, I'm going to go for Jack Taylor. It was difficult to pick someone out with Ipswich, really, because that starting 11 with what McKenna usually goes with is just so formidable. But obviously quite a bit of money was spent on Taylor in the summer, and as of right now, he's not quite been able to establish himself as a first team regular. More often than not, he's used as the sort of impact sub coming into midfield. It's often been Luongo and Morsey who have been that double pivot under McKenna, who have been absolutely brilliant. But I do definitely think there's more to come from Taylor in an Ipswich shirt. Just 4 starts so far this season, then 14 appearances from the bench. Got a couple goals in that time, that great strike against Swansea being one of them, and yeah, maybe going into 2024 he could look to chip in with a few more minutes. For Leeds United, I'm going to go for Jed Spence, another player who's had a frustrating spell on the sidelines but recently has returned to action. In the 2 games he's had since coming back from that injury, I don't think that Leeds have seen anywhere near the best of what Spence is capable of and what we as Championship fans have seen from him in the past. That recent game against Coventry, he didn't quite look to be completely at it, but I think that's probably expected of a player that's only recently come back from an injury. And you just think about how good Farke has been in years gone by at coaching, attacking fullbacks especially, and the potential Spence has in 2024 to have a really big impact on that Leeds promotion push. Leicester City, I've got to go for Tom Cannon. It was a big deal they pulled off over the summer, and so far we've barely got to see him in a Leicester City shirt. Obviously came to the club, was recovering from an injury, has slowly been eased into the picture of late. He's only played 58 minutes of Championship football so far this season, but speaking as a Preston fan who got to see Cannon up close and personal last season while he was on loan at North End, just thinking about what he could do when he is fully fit in that Leicester side with the service he'll have around him. In those limited minutes he's played so far, Leicester fans have probably only seen about 5% of what he's capable of doing, and when he does string together a consistent run of matches, I'd expect the goals to start flowing. Middlesbrough, I'm going to go for Marcus Forss. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for the 24-year-old, but listen, with how extensive Middlesbrough's injury record is right now, I could have picked from about 10 different players who I'm excited to see back in the new year for them, but Forss is someone who put up really solid numbers under Carrick last season. He averaged a goal contribution every 137 minutes last season, which is really decent going, 15 in total. Someone who could be a bit of a game changer when he gets back to full fitness, and as those players start to come back into the frame for Middlesbrough next year, maybe we'll see them slowly creeping up the league table as well. For Millwall, I'm going to go for Joe Bryan. I'd like to see him consistently down that left-hand side for them in 2024. It has been a pretty frustrating start to his Millwall career. He's been sidelined for a lot of it so far with a groin injury, I believe. He did, however, recently make his return to action from the bench in their recent game against Huddersfield, and fingers crossed he'll be able to provide that bit of quality going into 2024 if he does manage to keep himself fit. With Norwich, of course, I'm going to go for Josh Sargent. He has been out of action since August with an ankle injury, but by the time January 2024 rolls around, he should be back in contention for the Canaries. He was in prolific form at the start of the season with 4 goal contributions in his first 4 matches, and he would make the world of difference in a potential playoff push for Norwich in the second half of the season if he does manage to get himself back fully fit and firing like we all know he's capable of in the Championship. For Plymouth, I'm going to go for Michael Cooper, as it was recently announced that he is set to miss another 10 or so weeks of the Championship season with a fresh knee injury. Now, Cooper did miss the first chunk of matches because of injury, and luckily enough, Plymouth do have a reliable backup to call upon in Hazard, who was really consistent for them in the first weeks and months of the season. But with Cooper, he's clearly a very talented goalkeeper who's more than good enough for the level, and the stats will back that up. And fingers crossed, going into 2024, after he's recovered from this latest injury setback, he'll be able to put those injury troubles behind him. Preston North End, of course, I'm going to go for Emile Rees. He is approaching a full recovery, and what's been pretty much 12 whole months out of the game through injury. He picked up an ACL injury in the opening game of 2023 against Stoke City. He's been sidelined ever since, and I think that Preston definitely have felt his absence, his ability to run in behind, play off the last shoulder, and I'm really excited to see a potential partnership between him and Osmajic going into 2024. Rees in his most prolific season scored 17 league goals for North End, and boy could we do with that sort of goal scoring rate at the moment. For QPR, I'm going to say Reggie Cannon, who I'm excited to see a bit more of in 2024. He's only started 6 league matches up until this point, only really has been a regular starter since around November. Thought he looked quite a tidy player when QPR came to Deepdale earlier this season, and I think there's more to come from him in the new year. For Rotherham United, I'm actually going to go for their manager Liam Richardson as someone who I'm excited to see more of. He did spend quite a large chunk of time out of the game after he left Wigan, all the way back in November 2022, so over a year he spent out of the game until taking up the Rotherham job. Excited to see how he tries to go about making this Rotherham side as competitive as possible heading into 2024. It's 2 games, 2 losses so far, but they did get desperately unlucky not to snatch a point away at Plymouth. Sheffield Wednesday, I'm going to go for Momo Diaby. Wednesday fans really haven't been able to see much of the 27-year-old loanee this season. Just 65 minutes of football in a game against Preston, and other than that, he has been sidelined. But he has been stepping up his recovery, recently playing 90 minutes for Sheffield Wednesday's under-21s, and come January could provide Danny Röhl with a different option in midfield. Southampton, it's got to be Ross Stewart who I'm most excited to see more of in 2024. Southampton fans have only got to see a couple glimpses of him from the bench so far, a total of 17 minutes of Championship football he's played this season. And when Southampton rolled the dice on bringing him in, they knew they were signing a very injury-prone player who had spent a lot of last season on the sidelines, and this season has been massively frustrating for him so far, but if he is able to get himself back up to full fitness, he could still have a key role to play in the second half of the season. With Stoke, I'm going to go for Haksabanovic. I'd be interested to get some Stoke fans' thoughts down below on what you've made of the Montenegrin winger so far this season. He's only played 449 minutes, but in that time he has produced 3 goal contributions and clearly does have a bit of quality about him. Hopefully we'll get to see a bit more of him in the new year, because up until this point his appearances have been pretty spotty. Sunderland, I'm going to go for Timothy Pembele. Very much excited to see him making his debut for Sunderland, hopefully in the new year. The 21-year-old arrived from PSG this summer. He's been recovering from an ACL injury and so hasn't featured so far, but has been building his fitness up for the under-21s. Seems to be pretty rapid from what I've read about him and definitely has bags of potential. For Swansea, I'm excited to see the return of Nathan Wood sooner rather than later. He has been out of action since around September, and Swansea could definitely use with his added impetus into that back line, which has been a little bit inconsistent all season. Obviously, Josh Ginnelly, another player that I am looking forward to seeing back eventually, but he's set to miss the remainder of this campaign through injury. For Watford, I'm going to say Reece Healey. It's been a frustrating start to his career at Vicarage Road. I think he knew he was going to have to be quite patient in waiting for opportunities, given he has been coming back from a long-term injury. But he's only managed 59 minutes of Championship football so far this season, does have a goal and an assist in that time. But I'm interested to see what the long-term planning with Healey is at Watford, and if those opportunities aren't soon on the horizon, who knows, maybe even a January loan move can be on the cards. Finishing off with West Brom, of course I'm going to go for Daryl Dike, who I do hope can put his injury troubles behind going into 2024. He's already had a couple of long injury layovers while being a West Brom player, but you just can't help but think what extra dynamic he could potentially add to Carlos Corberan's side in what could be a promotion push in this second half of the season if he does manage to get himself back fully fit. That could be the difference between promotion or not for the Baggies this season. Well guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. There's one player from each Championship club who I'm excited to see a little bit more of heading into 2024. Any shouts from you in the comments down below, do let me know. Well, apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.